Alana rushed into her parents' house, her complexion pale and her cheeks stained with tears. Her mother, Margaret Hensley, immediately sensed a deep disturbance. "Sweetheart, what's happened?" Margaret asked, wrapping her daughter in a comforting hug. Alana collapsed into her mother's embrace, her body trembling with heavy sobs. Between gasping breaths she whispered, "Nathan's gone. He's left me." Margaret held her daughter gently, stroking her hair to calm her enough to explain further. Wiping her eyes, Alana handed an envelope to her father, Richard Hensley. "It was delivered to my office," she said, her voice wavering. Richard took the envelope carefully, his expression tightly controlled. Before opening it, he asked softly, "Where's Caleb? Is he with Nathan?" Alana nodded faintly, her voice barely audible. "Nathan dropped Kevin off here earlier. He said he was taking Caleb for a short errand." Fresh tears fell as she added, "Then these divorce papers arrived at work." Richard sank into an armchair, glancing between his wife and daughter, who clung to each other on the sofa like survivors holding onto a lifeboat. Margaret whispered soothing words, keeping Alana close. As Richard unfolded the divorce papers, his face darkened. There had been no hint, no conversation, no warning. "He had them served at your workplace," he muttered, his calm voice masking a rising anger. He scanned the document again before meeting Alana's eyes. "He's accusing you of infidelity. Is that true?" Alana's face contorted in pain. "No," she said firmly, shaking her head. "I've never been unfaithful. He thinks I was involved with someone at work, but I wasn't. I love him." Her voice broke as she wept. Richard's mouth tightened, doubting Nathan's claims. He suspected someone had influenced Nathan's thoughts. "Did he say anything that made him suspicious? What led him to believe you were cheating?" Alana's frustration spilled over. "I have no idea. Maybe because I hugged a colleague after we closed a big deal," she said, her voice sharp with resentment. "And once, at a work party, I was drunk and a coworker kissed me. I pushed him away the moment I realized what was happening. That was it, I swear." Richard's brow creased as he turned the page of the papers. Nathan was requesting joint custody of Caleb, but wanted no ties to Kevin. His shock was evident as he read on. Nathan demanded Kevin's last name be changed, and his name removed from Kevin's birth certificate. "Do you know why he'd demand this?" Richard asked, his tone tight. The room fell silent. Margaret and Alana exchanged a look filled with fear. Then Alana crumpled into her mother's arms again, her cries echoing. Richard's voice cut through, calm but resolute. "Alana, is it true? He's saying Kevin isn't his." Alana let out a stifled sob, burying her face in Margaret's shoulder. Margaret's gaze turned cold as she met her husband's eyes. "This won't happen," she said sharply. Richard remained steady. "Do you know anything about this?" he asked Margaret, his voice icy. "Did Alana tell you anything?" Margaret hesitated, choosing her words with care. "No, this is all new to me. We had no idea." Richard's doubt was clear. "He doesn't seem to believe you," he said pointedly. "He's demanding you both hand over your phones." Margaret's anger ignited. "No, you can't invade our privacy like that." Richard's tone hardened. "If you're hiding nothing, you won't mind giving them up. Unlock your phones, or I'll file for divorce tomorrow." Margaret's rage exploded. "I've never given you reason to doubt me, Richard. You're not getting our phones, and we're not divorcing." His voice grew colder. "I've put up with too many secrets over the years, but no more. Watching my daughter raise another man's child changes everything. Hand over the phones, or we're finished." Margaret's composure shattered. "Go to hell. I'll take everything you have and leave you with nothing." Richard stood still, tossing the divorce papers onto the coffee table, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Do what you need to." He turned and walked to the kitchen, leaving a fractured family in his wake. Moments later, he returned with a plastic Ziploc bag. Wearing a light glove, he turned the bag inside out and carefully collected the used tissues scattered in front of Alana. When finished, he sealed it quickly. Margaret's voice broke the silence, raw with fury. "What are you doing?" She pointed a shaking finger at the bag, her body trembling with a rage Richard had never seen in their nearly 30 years together. It struck him that he might not truly know the woman he'd shared his life with. I'm reaching out to Nathan to find out which DNA testing service he used, Richard said calmly but firmly. If Kevin isn't his, I need to know if Alana is mine or if you've been deceiving me for 30 years. Margaret's scream was raw, filled with primal anger. She lunged at him, her nails raking across his face with fierce intensity. The suffocating panic of being attacked is indescribable, unless you've felt that desperate struggle to defend yourself. Despite the years, Richard's reflexes kicked in. A brief karate training from his youth resurfaced, and his instincts took over. As Margaret's nails tore at his skin, he struck her in the solar plexus with controlled force. Not to injure, but enough to knock the breath from her. She collapsed to the floor, gasping, her face twisted in shock and pain. As Margaret fell, Alana's scream pierced the room, her face marked with terror as she watched her mother struggle. Richard didn't hesitate. He turned and headed to his office. He knew Margaret would recover soon, but he needed to leave before she did. He quickly packed his laptop, tablet, and a few clothes, then left the house. He disabled the Wi-Fi router and changed its password, knowing Margaret depended on the internet for everything. Social media, forums, all of it. Without access, she'd be isolated. Stuffing his belongings into a backpack, Richard passed his recovering wife without a word and walked out. It was done. His first stop was a nearby fast food restaurant, where he connected to their free Wi-Fi. Methodically, he checked his financial accounts, paid off and closed their joint credit card, and used the bill pay function to settle another shared card. He transferred half the funds from their joint bank account into a personal account under his landscaping business's name. A straightforward but effective step. That evening, Richard arrived at the Thompson household. James Thompson greeted him at the door, his expression heavy with understanding. "This," Richard began, "is an absolute catastrophe." James nodded and led him to the patio overlooking the golf course. They sat, drinks in hand, the weight of the situation pressing down. Finally, Richard spoke. "How's Nathan coping?" James raised an eyebrow, his tone somber. "Do you really need to ask? He lost his son, Richard. And you lost your grandson. That's not something you just get over." Richard's shoulders sagged under the weight of guilt. "I don't know how to face Alana or Margaret, knowing Kevin might not be Nathan's. She kept it hidden, and now I'm questioning if Alana is even mine." James's face grew serious. "Clara's furious. I've never seen her this angry. If Alana isn't Caleb's mother, she might do something extreme." Richard nodded grimly. "We need to stay calm. No more chaos, please." Their conversation was interrupted when a furious figure stormed in. Clara, glaring at Richard with cold accusation. She demanded to know why he was there. James raised a hand to calm her. "Easy love," he said. But Richard stepped forward, siding with Nathan before James could explain further. Before more could be said, the doorbell rang. 2 police officers stood on the porch, their faces unreadable. Richard met their gaze with quiet acceptance. "I expected this," he said softly, offering his wrists for the handcuffs. As an officer led him away, James called out, "I'll contact Nathan. We'll sort this out." Over the next 6 months, the chaos gradually settled. Alana, who had initially fought the divorce fiercely, suggested counseling but then made unreasonable demands. DNA results confirmed Alana was indeed Richard's biological daughter, bringing him a mix of relief and sorrow. Though his love for her remained, their relationship was forever changed. Alana barred him from seeing his grandson Kevin. A photo Richard took at a pharmacy, showing scratches and nail marks on his face, became key evidence in a misdemeanor assault charge against Margaret. Meanwhile, Richard was entangled in divorce proceedings with Margaret, a woman he no longer trusted or respected. Margaret fought the divorce relentlessly, her legal team delaying at every step. The situation seemed headed for an endless stalemate until a violent incident occurred in a nightclub parking lot. Margaret and Alana were attacked by an unidentified assailant, a short man in black, wearing a ski mask, wielding a heavy pole. Despite broken bones and lost teeth, both women survived with no lasting physical damage. They couldn't identify the attacker but suspected Nathan, Alana's husband, might have had a motive. Nathan, at 63, was ruled out as a suspect, and investigators had no solid leads. The attack deeply affected Margaret and Alana, causing them to withdraw from social life, consumed by fear and anxiety. Their relationship deteriorated, marked by frequent arguments. Eventually, they gave up their fight for Caleb's custody. In the divorce, custody was split 50-50, with Nathan named primary custodian. Neither Margaret nor Nathan received child or spousal support. As the legal battles unfolded, new truths came to light. A court-ordered DNA test revealed that Michael Andrews, not Nathan, was Kevin's biological father. Consequently, Nathan's name was removed from Kevin's birth certificate, and Michael was ordered to pay child support to Alana. Michael faced financial strain. His wife had filed for divorce, demanding support for their 3 children and alimony. Michael insisted she stay home to care for the children, as she had with their first, but the financial pressure pushed him toward poverty. Despite the turmoil of his wife's infidelity, Nathan found stability through his parents' unwavering support. He retained his role at Richard's landscaping business and invested in its growth. Caleb thrived, though he grew emotional during visits with his mother, who sometimes expressed anger toward Nathan or cried over their separation. Meanwhile, Margaret's resentment toward Richard deepened. She couldn't stand his charm and popularity among the single women at the country club. Amid the chaos, Richard's parents, James and Clara, remained steadfast in supporting their son and grandson. Clara's strength shone as she won her 5th consecutive women's golf championship, even with an incomplete set of clubs. And so the tale comes to an end.